Now, cross-examination of cell phone data analyst Gideon Gouws in the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial continues in the High Court in Pretoria. Yesterday, the court heard that the 5 men accused of the crime continued to communicate via cell phone while already in police custody. But the lawyer for accused number 2, Bongani Ntanzi, has disputed this.
At that time, this image was taken with that phone from the camera of that phone. Accused number 2 will tell this court that he was already in custody from the 16th of June 2020 without the access to take even this photo. So he did not take this photo.
I can't comment on that.
Now, Gouws says accused number 5, Fisakuhle Ntuli's number, was saved on a SIM card as Lungisani and communicated with all other accused. But Ramosepele says Ntanzi denies that the Lungisani is also Ntuli.
My instructions from accused number 2 is that he does indeed know this Lungisani person. And that Lungisani person is not accused number 5, Fisakuhle Ntuli. It's a different person at all.
I can't comment on that. That's according to the database I received, and that's the analysis I've done.
Now, just to elaborate that point, that Lungisani is not accused number 5, and the number attributed there does not belong to accused number 5. Accused number 2 instructs me that Lungisani's surname is, I'm not even sure that I should mention it in court, let me leave it. But he instructs me as follows, that they are allowed to make calls from the public phones at prison where he is accommodated. And he does speak to this person on this number on weekends when he's allowed to phone.
All right, let's keep our focus on the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial now. Linda Mnisi, as we know, has been following these proceedings for better or worse. Linda, it's finally getting to the meat of things, though, it feels like. It's been a bit slow in court. There's been a lot of procedural stuff we've been going through. But now there is this evidence of the cell phone effectively, I mean, if everything that the state is alleging is true, effectively linking the accused.
Absolutely, and you'll remember, this is cell phone evidence that proves, according to the state, that these are the men that not only participated in the murder of Senzo Meyiwa, but the communication that was there. These are people that know each other. You'll also remember the evidence, for example, of Zungu, the police officer, who said that they were at a particular hostel, at a hostel in Vosloorus prior to this particular commission of the crime happening. So here, they're trying to demonstrate to the court that these are the people that know each other, that have been in communication. Yeah. But the version that we're hearing is that it looks like some of them say they don't know each other, and therefore it cannot be true that they were speaking or even communicating. For example, if you look at what the data analyst has told the court today, he says the cell phone number of accused number 5 was saved in accused number 2's phone. And because it was saved on accused number 2's phone, the accused number 5 then was communicating with all of them, which then links him to all of the 5 accused persons. But now, you would have heard Sipho Ramosepele representing accused number 1 saying that, well, that can't be true. In fact, what representing accused number 2 rather, saying that accused number 2 says that in fact, there is a particular Lungisani that he knows. He's still using the same number to communicate with him in prison during weekends when they're given time to make communication. But the data analyst says there were Section 205s that are obtained for these numbers that are now in question. And this is data that they found from the downloaded data from the SIM card.
Yeah, I imagine that the next step for the defense will obviously be as well to ask for proof that indeed this number does belong to accused number 5.
Yeah, because it's right at the center of the communications, right? But this data analyst yesterday, Gouws, telling the court that in fact they were able, from the data that they received, they were able to pick up that it is this phone number that was used to open accounts by accused number 5. So he would have opened accounts and used that number for contact. So yesterday he spoke about, how the SIM card would have received an SMS from one of the accounts. So the account part says then that it belongs to him. But it actually reminded me of his defense previously when the news came out that he had communicated with Kelly Khumalo. He had told the court at the time, or in his defense, questioning Colonel Steyn, said that the number is not registered in his name, so it cannot be said that it belonged to him. Another defense that he recently brought is that the phone that was discovered in custody, while he was in custody, was not found from him. It is a phone that was found on his cellmate's bed and was not necessarily discovered from him. So the state here is trying to say that this number belonged to him because he opened the accounts. And interestingly, one of the numbers that are saved in that SIM card are saved as Miss Mshololo. Yeah.
I mean, how many Miss Mshololos are there? One.
So this is the evidence, obviously, that is also subject to cross-examination. So he's still under cross-examination for the evidence, of course, to be tested.
Look, we're having a brief moment of levity just because there have been so many details about this trial, and sometimes it does get a bit lost in translation, right? We're trying to keep track of what is an incredibly important journey to justice, hopefully, in the end. We're also coming up to the 10-year anniversary of the murder of Senzo Meyiwa. And I'm sure his family, his father's not alive to see it, but the rest of his family certainly are looking for closure, and his friends and loved ones. So it brings me to my next question, Linda. How much longer is the state's case?
Yeah. When you look at the evidence that the state has led so far, I believe it's over 30 witnesses that have come so far. And, this is now without the trial within the trial itself. So one of the important things that I think they're dealing with now is really trying to solidify for them the role of the accused, or the role that was played by the accused. Because you'll remember we've heard about the gun, where the gun was recovered, who it belonged to, how the commission of the crime was, or how the crime was actually committed, and all the other parts, how they got there, where they were before the commission of the crime, and all of those things. And there's always been those questions around what, for example, is the involvement of accused number 4 and 5. But if you look at the evidence that the state has led so far, they said, for example, that accused number 4 was standing outside, if the confessions are anything to go by. Accused number 5 was in a getaway car, which really, if the state's case is anything to go by, would then say, they played not much of a major role in the commission of the crime. They were not inside the house. So what would the state need to do to prove their involvement, that they were, in fact, there? So in the next month or so, we'll be hearing from the ballistics expert, whose evidence is yet to be challenged in terms of the gun, the position of the gun, how it was fired, and all of those things, how it was matched and linked to accused number 3. But also, we still are yet to also hear from the lead investigator. You'll remember he only testified in the trial within a trial, and his testimony in the trial within a trial does not necessarily impact or cannot be itself. It cannot be transferred. So we're still yet to hear from those people, and perhaps the state will want to touch on a few other things before it closes its case.
Linda Mnisi, thanks so much for coming into studio. It's always good to get a sense of just where we are insofar as the Senzo Meyiwa case is. Of course, it's this case that we are tracking for you constantly, going in and out of court to try and keep you up to speed.